Shalom, and thank you for your studies. My question concerns a passage that has intrigued me for a long time. In Genesis chapter 30, when Jacob was about to leave his father-in-law and go back to Israel, as a payment of the years he worked for Laban, he asked that he be paid with the speckled and spotted animals from the flock, which seemed to be low in number. However, after a while, he succeeded in having a great number of these animals and left with them. How did he manage to increase the number of these animals? The text is not clear to me.
Genesis 30 is indeed a very intriguing chapter. I will take a little more time than usual and try to sum it up, for this is a great story for us. In this section, Jacob is finally on his way back home to the land of Israel after 20 long years of labor at the home of his father-in-law, Laban. Why did he go there, and why did he stay so long? Originally, he came for one wife, and he found Rachel. However, he ended up with 4 wives. How did he come to this? It is very complicated, as any feuds or disputes are. But Jacob was the first responsible because of on his wedding day with Rachel, he got drunk. So his father-in-law, wanting his older daughter to be married first, as was the custom in that day, managed to give Jacob his older daughter Leah instead of Rachel. Jacob did not even notice. Laban was the name of his father-in-law. His name means white or sincere, but he was anything but. Okay, really, he was a crook, as we will see throughout the story. After this incident, because there was a competition between the 2 daughters who at first could not conceive, they brought in their servants to conceive for them as the law allowed them to. So Jacob ended up with 4 wives and 11 sons and 1 daughter when he decided to leave to go back to Israel, and this is where we are in chapter 30 of Genesis. Of course, Laban was not happy, especially that Jacob was a very valuable employee to him. It is in verse 30 where Jacob reminds him how blessed Laban was all these past years. He says, "For what you had before I came was little, and it has increased to a great amount. The Lord has blessed you since my coming, and now when shall I also provide for my own house? Such a good worker you don't let go easily." But Jacob made up his mind. It is at this point that Laban asked him in verse 31, "What shall I give you for all the work he did for him in the past 20 years?" The last thing Jacob wanted is to take anything from this man. And so he answered him, "You shall not give me anything." He didn't want to take a chance. And this is when the fascinating part begins. I will just sum it up for you, but you can always go back to our study on Genesis 30 to get more details as the study goes from verse to verse. So Jacob offers Laban to pay himself with cattle that was not yet born. That is why he says, "You shall give me nothing." And to make the offer even more appealing, he tells them that he will only take lambs, sheep, and goats which were speckled or spotted, something that is rare among the sheep and the goats, at least in their flocks. What a great deal, Laban must have thought. And he must also have thought, even if Jacob ends up by pulling out these rare spotted cattle, it will take him so many years to gather enough of them. So he was to remain working for a long time for Laban. But it was going to be different. Jacob had a plan, and that is the plan that is still baffling many commentators. The offer is in verse 32. See what he says. "Let me pass through all your flock today, removing from there all the speckled and spotted sheep, and all the brown ones among the lambs, and the spotted and speckled among the goats. These shall be my wages." Laban was very happy with this, and he says in verse 34, "Oh, that it were according to your word." By the way, that was a silly move from Laban, because one should never agree to a deal unless he understands the contract. And indeed, very soon after, Jacob ended up with more cattle than Laban could ever imagine, and Jacob left a rich man to the land of Israel. Up to today, what Jacob did is a puzzle. As Bible commentators, Jews and Gentiles could not figure out how he pulled it off. Yet the scriptures tell us how he did it, and today, with the advancements of behavioral psychology and studies in animal behavior, we can have a pretty good idea of how Jacob succeeded. He seems to have understood something about genetics. We're going to read for you verses 37 to 39 and see if you can figure it out. It's a challenge really for you, especially if you're in the scientific field. Cheyenne will read it for us.
Now Jacob took for himself rods of green poplar and of the almond and chestnut trees, peeled white strips in them, and exposed the white which was in the rods. And the rods which he had peeled he set before the flocks in the gutters, in the watering trays where the flocks came to drink, so that they should conceive when they came to drink. So the flocks conceived before the rods, and the flocks brought forth, streaked, speckled, and spotted.
Complicated, isn't it? Okay, there is no magic here. Okay, it looks like Jacob found a way to trigger the reproduction of animals by mixing a certain liquid emanating from the rods with the water. And somehow he figured out, and surely after many years of observation as a shepherd, that streaked, speckled, and spotted animals are produced when some visual elements are present. I don't think we're called to understand exactly what he did unless we are actually ourselves scientists. But the message here is that Jacob was an observer. He was a student of nature and one who did not lose his time as a shepherd, and he must have loved his flock to understand such process, and he used this knowledge for the benefit of his family, for he was going to travel a long way to Israel. After all, we have read that previously in the book of Genesis, God spoke of Jacob as a tam that is a wise and smart person. And after spending so many years with the flock and caring for them, this is what he observed. Today, many credit Pavlov with first discovery of how to stimulate a response from animals. But now we see where this really comes from. It is not Pavlov, but Jacob. The V and the B in the Hebrew sound the same. So Jacob then is among the first scientists in the history of man, and he turned this knowledge for the benefit of his family. And I am convinced that his love for his animals brought blessings from God. It is written in Proverbs 2:10, a righteous man has regard for the life of his animal. For us today, we have a good advice taken from this part. We have a good advice from another man of God who also took good care of his flock. Okay, this is Paul in Ephesians 5:16, when he says, redeeming the time because the days are evil. As time runs out from us, and as we're coming close again to the end, this part of Jacob's life speaks loudly to us.